How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Emerald City Hockey post-game live. Wow, what a victory for the Seattle Kraken. 6-3 over the Vancouver Canucks. This game had it all, too. Everything that a Kraken fan could want. Wonderful to be back in Climate Pledge Arena. You could tell that the Kraken were really fired up about it. This arena was loud. It was jumping. Everybody in the building tonight was feeling it. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible. Loved being here for this one. I loved watching this Kraken victory as well over the Vancouver Canucks. This was just a fantastic game all the way around. We get the young guys on the board. Shane gets a couple of assists. Maddie gets that beautiful tip-in goal. Brandon Montour's doing his thing, right? I mean, just fantastic play up and down the lineup in this one from a lot of guys. Joey making the big saves like he does, getting the chance late as the air cannons go off in Climate Pledge there. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. This was just a fantastic game all the way around. Joey almost got it. I see B kicking off the chat with Tyler Myers. I'm haunting your dreams for ruining the Joey goal. I'm placing a curse upon you, actually. Why do you hate fun? It's what Tyler Myers does to us every time, right, everybody? Like, this is just what we end up with every single time when we got to play Vancouver and when we got to deal with Tyler Myers. And he was a menace beyond just the just robbing us of the Joey Decord goal there late. He was pretty active in the offensive zone for Vancouver tonight. He was making a lot of plays happen for them. He was in full on Tyler Myers mode for this one, for sure. Definitely a good way to kick off the post-game live presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall. And note on the Beer Hall, we are reaching out to them. We're trying to set up dates for a couple watch parties at the Beer Hall or at multiple Beer Hall locations. So we'll have more news on that soon. Definitely want to get around to that. It's crazy that it's already March. And we haven't done that yet. Apologies there, but we're looking to make it happen, and I'm looking forward to it. Love the super chat here from Coco. Really appreciate that, Coco. Means a lot. And then also super chat from Evan. During the goalie hugs, it looked like Tanev knew he was leaving really soon. I'm big sad. We'll see. I mean, it feels like one of those trades that is more or less inevitable at this point. That being said, nothing's happened until it's happened, right? There's been plenty of stories of guys that were thought to have been moved at the deadline. Something happens last minute while they're working on, hammering out the details. Next thing you know, deadline's passed. You can't make the trade, right? I'm not saying that that's going to happen this time, but if you are a Brandon Tanev fan, if you're in the camp of wanting Brandon Tanev to hang around, as much as his name is floated out there, nothing is for sure until he's actually gone, and you can kind of use that as long as it lasts you, right? Cole with the big super chat, really appreciate that, Cole. Just find my other comment, lol. I will. Where are we going here for Cole? Let me see. Berkey's best game of the season. Ooh, it's very possible. It's very possible. I mean, Burkey gets that goal. It's a great goal off of a wonderful feed from Shane Wright. Not trying to take away anything from Burkey. Does a great job of bearing it, but Shane Wright does a great job of second in the defender. Beautiful touch pass on the backhand. Saucer gets it over there, lands perfectly so that Burkey can receive it clean and make sure he can do it. And then obviously that sequence later on when Burkey helps create that other goal. A little bit later, driving the net, just looking confident. There's that other one in the third period where he that previous one was in the second period. In the third period where he gets the puck in the neutral zone. Nobody's in front of him. He's just got all the time and space he could want. Just kind of threads the needle a little bit through the two defenders that are trying to close in from the sides. He's able to beat them with speed. Goes in, makes a good move around Quinn Hughes, and then he's able to get a grade A shot off on Lakeinen. But yeah, this is, if it's not Berkey's best game of the year, it's definitely up there. But the fact that I can think of multiple instances like that from Andre Burkovsky tonight makes me think that it's definitely up there. 6 shots on goal for him as well, +3. I mean, this was a heck of a performance from him. A pair of hits as well to go along with it. Just added on for extras, right? This was definitely a great one from Andre Burkovsky. I'm there with you, Cole, and yeah, I think we could probably do that. From Coco here, oops, messed that up. It's 5:46 here in England on my way back via Amsterdam. Can't wait for bobblehead night. That is awesome. I hope you had a fantastic trip, Coco. That sounds really fun. That is awesome, and no worries at all. Appreciate the super chat. Light with the super chat today showed off the ideal setup for our top 6. Maddie dominating puck possession, creating pressure. Shane's line scoring. This is the future, and it really is. I mean, perfect world, both lines are scoring, right? But this was another game in which that Maddie Beniers line with Capo Caco is just able to dominate possession. And obviously, Maddie Beniers does a great job of getting things up and out of the defensive zone, but I really want to highlight Capo Caco's ability to just run a sustained forecheck, cycle the puck, be a one-man cycling machine. I mean, he can literally just in the offensive zone take the puck and just go around the perimeter. He's got that big body. He can body people off of him. He does a great job of hanging on to the puck. You cannot separate him from the puck at all. He's, in my opinion, kind of by far and away the best player on this team when it comes to that. He just has this knack for knowing when contact's coming. If somebody's coming up behind him, he senses it really well. He knows how to protect the puck, put his body between it, the incoming defender and the puck. He's just really able to make those plays. And he had that one sequence. Was it in the first period, I think it was, where they were just in the offensive zone for so long, and it was just all Capo Caco just defending the puck. He would make a pass to somebody, and then he'd immediately get open and be able to receive the pass. The way he drives lanes, I mean, that line is really able to have the longest zone time of any of the Kraken lines, offensive zone time of any of the Kraken lines, and so much of it is because of what Capo Caco can do. Not to sell Jaden Schwartz and Matty Beniers short at all, but the Capo Caco has really made a big difference as far as being a guy capable of, giving the Kraken 20, 30 seconds in the offensive zone over the course of a shift. It's been really, really impressive to watch, and it's been something that the Kraken have definitely needed, and he's been a big part of it. Obviously, Maddie and Jaden Schwartz do their fair share as well. I would love to see that line get better looking chances off of some of those possessions when they're able to really cycle it or have that prolonged offensive zone time. Like that sequence I was talking about, it kind of ends on a Jaden Schwartz. I called it ho-hum on Discord because it was just kind of a shot from a little bit further out, not too much traffic in front. I think they need to kind of figure out how they can capitalize off of having that offensive zone time, get a little bit more player movement from the non-puck carriers, see if they can find some open spaces to get some good shots so that as a Capo Caco or as a Matty Beniers has that prolonged time with the puck and they're kind of moving around protecting it, somebody gets open that they can make the pass to and hopefully bury it, right? And then Shane's just collecting points at will right now at the NHL level. He's been fantastic at it. He seems like right now, since he has kind of taken that next step, I think 15 games ago now, he feels like the Kraken's most consistent point producer. Like I feel like we can just kind of say that about him. He is the best guy at generating offense or strong offensive chances that are going to result in a goal for the Kraken. It just feels like he is that guy. And you look at him picking up the pair of assists in this one, and they're on early goals for the Kraken, right? This game kind of blew open a little bit later on for the Kraken, and you were able to get some more goals. You get those two tip-in goals, which were beautiful tips, but they were you started to see Vancouver have issues defending, especially that Tolvanen tip, right? Like he's just left completely alone. That wasn't the case earlier in the game when Shane was picking up his points, right? Those are very much Shane and his line going out there and making something happen. So I'm with you, like that. This is the future. This is the ideal kind of setup for the Kraken based on this current lineup iteration anyway, as far as how they can find success. Schultz with the super chat. What a frustrating team. Play like this often enough to show that they're capable of it, but not frequently enough to be anything other than an outlier. Tell me about it. I think that's where we're all kind of at, right? It's frustrating if you're a fan because you never know what you're going to get when you tune in on TV. You never know what you're going to get when you pay an arm and a leg to get into the building. So that certainly frustrating. It's frustrating for us on the media side of things because you just never know what you're going to get. It makes it very difficult to kind of go back and forth with this, right? I mean, last post game was, it's the exact opposite emotions of this one, right? It's kind of hard to do that if you're in a position like us or the people on the Kraken Hockey Network kind of having to cover it. And then it's got to be frustrating if you're the team, if you're management, if you're ownership, right? Because you just want consistency. If you're on this team, you just want to feel consistent, feel like you've got it every night. If you're running this team, you want to feel like they've got it and they're in it every night. And it just has not been the case this year at all. We've talked about it a lot, but I'm with you, Schultz, that this is just like kind of another example of it, and it's a little frustrating. Not gonna lie. Andy really thought it was going to happen for a moment there, referring to the Joey goal. Yeah, that Joey chance was really close. Unfortunately, Tyler Myers just happens to be gigantic and happened to be in the neutral zone to kind of grab it. How's it going, Pablo? General Pancakes, right? Mentioning the goal attempt by Joey at the end was great. Yeah, that they all wanted it to happen. And how crazy would it have been to happen today after Ilya Sorokin gets his goalie goal earlier today in that Islanders-Nashville game, get 2 goalie goals in a day? That would have been really, really awesome. Joey's would have been the highlight too, because he would have scored it himself. I'm not going to lie. I feel like that kind of ranks a little bit higher than the other team getting an own goal, and you happen to be the last guy to touch it. But that would have been really, really exciting. And I'm telling you, the collective sigh and like moan and groan by everybody when Tyler Myers picked that out of the air. It was on the press bridge. It was probably the loudest like groan I've heard on the press bridge all season. Not gonna lie. You're at 6. Well, that was fun. Could have laid down, fought back. Youngin stepped up. Wright was great. Hope his time on ice was up. I don't believe it was. I can check real quick here. It wasn't trending on it. 15:28. So like he's getting like a little bit more like this. We're seeing him over the 15 mark now, but it's not maybe as much as a lot of people would want to see. I don't know. I mean, we know, we talked with at practice the other day, Dan Bylsma, head coach for the Kraken. RJ asked about it. He asked Dan and he asked if there was a plan regarding Shane Wright's ice time. Dan said that there was a plan, but that he was not going to share it with us. So there is a plan. Whether that plan is they're waiting for the trade deadline to pass, they're waiting for the last 10 games of the season, they're waiting for next season, who knows? But he was very quick on saying there was a plan. It wasn't like he just kind of needed to say that to get out of the question. I do genuinely believe there is a plan. It's just we do not know what it is, unfortunately. Lindsay, Matty goal, Shane multi-point game, win for the home fans, good stuff. It really is good stuff. And like I said, I'm really happy. And the team I thought did a good job saluting the crowd after this one, after they all went and congratulated Joey. They definitely gave a good salute to the crowd because this crowd was absolutely in this game. They were fantastic. Yes, there was a lot of Vancouver fans in here. Yes, they were jeering, taunting Joey after Joey allowed the first 2 Canucks goals. But the Kraken fans, I felt like, did a great job of answering that noise, answering that with their own energy. And I really think this was one of those games where the Kraken players could feel it on the ice, and they were really able to kind of absorb some of that passion, absorb that energy from the crowd that was really in it from the start, and they stayed in it all the way through. This was potentially, outside of like opening day, something like that, this really felt like the biggest the crowd factor has kind of been this season at home in a lot of ways. So that was really cool to see. Terrible. It seems like forever since both Dylan and RJ were in the building. It has been a minute for sure. It feels like forever, let me tell you. Thankfully everything is the same. Burkovsky team really showing out, knowing there were training scouts around. Yeah, so there was scouts up on the press bridge. Didn't seem like there was that many more than there really kind of is normally. RJ put out a tweet about the scouts in the building. I saw somebody put it on the Discord as well. I mean, I guess the most notable would be that Tampa had 2 scouts in attendance for this one. That's not atypical. They sometimes do have that be the case. So we'll see what kind of ends up happening there. But I think there was, what was there, maybe 6 or 7 in there tonight. We'll see. Stratic, any tips on good food spots in NorCal? No. So when I lived in the Bay Area, I was a younger child, so I don't have that many good spots. Probably none that still exist anyway. Now that, because we're talking about like over 20 years ago. Yeah, RJ might have some better luck for you, Stratic. Sorry. Christian Disco Dance Party. Woo! You think this team would have looked different if the captain was never injured? I think there would have been some differences with this group. I think maybe they're a little bit more consistent. Bottom line, though, is, I mean, he's been back now 4 games. We've seen 3 good efforts and 1 rough one. That's maybe a better percentage than the more 50-50 that we saw when he was injured. But I think for the most part, this team has just kind of been what this team is, kind of regardless of whoever's in there. I know plus minus doesn't mean much, but can we talk about Perky being a +3? Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, Rodon. It is something. Like, it is not the greatest stat in the world, for sure. It does not tell you as full a story as it seems like it should, or on, at face value, maybe you would assume it does. But there are certain instances where I think that you can use that. And, in a game like this where, team wins by 3, he's a +3. You're talking about 9 total goals to be a +3. Like, it's still good. And I mean, I'm going to check to see where that kind of puts him amongst other Kraken players, but it feels like, I think that was the highest on the team. So, does the actual number tell you that much? No, but if you're the best on the team, I feel like you can draw more conclusions from that. Some more talk about booing Tyler Myers by everyone pointing out Riker Evans got a point too. Yeah, and not only does he get that point, but I feel like Riker Evans really earns the point on that Tolvanen tip-in goal, because that shot from Riker Evans, and you can tell too, at least I think anyway, because he picks his head up, he sees Tolvanen there, and he sends the most beautiful tippable shot that you can imagine. It is the perfect height. It's about waist high on Eeli Tolvanen. That's exactly where you want it if you're a forward. It's perfectly level. It's not going crazy. It's not kind of doing this and knuckling its way in. It is just a beautiful smooth shot that he takes. It's got good velocity on it, but not too much. It's perfect height. It's coming in absolutely flat. That is like the most tippable shot that any forward could want. And I really credit Riker for doing that and being aware of the situation there, knowing that he's got somebody, between him and the net, somebody who does not have a defender on him, and who is going to be able to make a play like that if he can set him up. And Riker absolutely set up Tolvanen beautifully for that one. It was just perfect. RJ and I were looking at it up on the press bridge. We were just kind of in awe at how perfectly tippable that shot from Riker Evans was. It was a really great play there. So I'm definitely on board with talking about that. Jody, great game to be at. Good job, Ebbs. Yes, this was a fantastic one. Again, if you were in the building, absolutely fantastic one for this one. Evan Lowell, I'm down to sell the bets, just sad it has to happen. It is rough when it has to happen, but it means more opportunity for young guys to come up and join the lineup, or new players to be added over the course of the off season. It's just sports, that's the way it goes. Unfortunately, Shane's 9th multi-point game. Baby Squid is flourishing from Angela Bug. Yes, he is. Talked about him earlier, right? Shane Wright is just fantastic right now. Consistent producer on this team. Just absolutely making good things happen. And speaking of Shane Wright, super chat here from Cameron. How is Writer's ice time tonight? He's playing like he belongs now. Such an awesome kid. He was able to get about 15 and a half minutes. I'll give you the exact number, 15:28. So, it's a decent number. It does feel like he's kind of separating from an ice time standpoint a little bit from the other bottom six players, but he's not quite catching up to the guys in the top six. He's kind of existing in this middle ground all by himself as far as ice time, where he is getting more, especially being on that power play unit and them kind of trusting that power play unit with him, Matty, Capo Caco, Vince Dunn, and I'm spacing on the last player on that unit. No. Well, 4 out of 5 is not bad. Him being on that power play unit has been a big deal, and has been a big part of it, as well as is getting him that extra ice time and having him just be a consistent player out there when they have the extra attacker is definitely a part of why we're seeing that number grow. I think that's something that'll continue, and that's kind of why he's existing in this. And I think that, right now, and you could make the argument for this being reasonable, that's really the only way they can give him more ice time, unless you're going to truly work Stevie's line down the lineup and kind of fully replace it with Shane's. This is kind of the best way, and in some ways the only way that you can give Shane that more ice time. But again, Dan confirmed that there was a plan, just wouldn't tell us what the plan is, and we have no idea the timeline of said plan either. So, but there is a plan. Edward with the super chat today. Schroeder, Kraken, decent. More of this, please. Yes, we did. We got the decent Kraken came out of the box today. I'm with you in the sense that you definitely want more of this. It's tough if you look on the tanking side of things, just because it's a top 4. This draft it's got 4 guys. I see a lot of people really starting to agree with that around the doing mocks and stuff like that. And the Kraken are currently in that spot. You don't want to win too much, but at the same time, like being in the building when the crowd is as amazing as this, and how dedicated all of the Kraken fans are, right? And obviously RJ and I know this very well because we have all of you, participating in post games like this all the time with us and listening to the podcast. But knowing how dedicated the Kraken fans are, everybody walking into this building kind of knows the situation. They know what the season has been. They know the price point to get into the building and the price point of concessions to eat and drink here and everything. And to see the building full like it was tonight, and as loud as it was, and as engaged in the game for the full 60, it's really a special experience, and it's really what sports is all about. And as much as my brain can say logically it's better if the Kraken kind of find ways of losing more than winning, it does feel like for these last 9 home games left, if they were to win those 9 games and the building was like it was tonight, I would not be sad at all. And I think that it would be fantastic, and it would be a great way to kind of, close out what's otherwise been a tough year for all the fans here that are able to come and be a part of it. I think that would be good, and it would be nice. Let's see here. Coming back over. Yes, I mean, RJ was in here talking about the Hockey Night in Canada towel being on Brandon Montour, and Stratic pointing out, yep, Vancouver lost on Hockey Night in Canada. Extra drama. Not to talk too much about the Canucks here, but just because they are in the division and they are very much part of the kind of national storylines, international storylines. I do kind of want to mention them. I know Marshiro, despite the Canucks invasion, Kraken Nation showed up. They absolutely did in this one. It really, just looking at Elias Pettersson, because that has been such a big story. I don't think I've ever seen a player that it looks like if you just blurred your eyes a little bit, you would just see a fog around them or a black rain cloud hanging over his head. Pettersson just looked so unsure of himself. He looked so just off, and in a way that I've barely ever seen before. But it's just in that way that players that have no confidence, and they just it just feels like they can't whether it's that they can't trust what they're seeing, or they're just having a problem or trouble seeing what's in front of them. That's really what Pettersson looked like tonight, and I really did feel bad for him watching him play in this one. It was really tough to see that, because you don't want to see anybody kind of in that spot when you go to a professional sporting event. You want to see the best in the world competing and playing their best, right? Even if it means the other team might have some good players and they're going to show up against your guys. At the end of the day, like, that is what makes for the most enjoyable experience. And Quinn Hughes gave us that tonight, right? Like, he looked fantastic, even though he looked miserable, but that's just kind of his forever expression. But Pettersson really looked like an athlete who is just completely lost. And it's really tough to see that when you see somebody's confidence kind of as low as it was. And like I said, it was almost like physical. Like, you could just physically see just a rain cloud or something over him. It was tough to see that for sure. Jason Moneypuck with a solid 17.6% deserved to win for the Kraken. Yeah, I mean, Vancouver did do a good job of establishing a net front presence, getting a lot of shots through traffic. Joey had to make some incredible saves, like Joey has had to do all season long, like Joey has really made a strong habit of doing for this Kraken team. I will say this, I think this is where some of the more public models, some of that factors in a little bit, because if you look at the 2 goals for the Kraken off of those tips, those are really significant chances, but Moneypuck did not rate them as such, because it focuses more so on where the shot was taken. It doesn't necessarily, I feel like, always factor in things like the traffic in front, the tip, and all of that. Those are goals that almost every goalie is going to let in, because they're just, when the puck redirects on you like that, it's significantly harder to stop. And I just don't know that Moneypuck always adequately factors that in or quantifies it. Let's see, Light with the super chat. I heart the game with Quinn back in a regulation win. Yeah, no, this was a good performance for the Kraken. Like, they were going up against the more so fully fledged Vancouver Canucks than maybe what we saw last time Vancouver was in the building. Let's see, David, I thought they were trending upwards, but then the St. Louis game happened and I was okay. They're checked out. And then this game happens. It's more confusing than linear algebra. I'm telling you, it is absolutely kind of crazy how up and down everything has been this year with everything. El Velo was half expecting this to be a get-right game for Pettersson, so I take it as a win that the Kraken kept him off the score sheet. Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of that, but like I said, Pettersson looks more broken than just somebody going through like a quiet spell or a dry spell right now. Like, there's something significant is going on with him there. And like I said, it's like tough to watch, even though you're not like necessarily rooting for him. He's on the other team and everything. It was just tough to see him like that. Government Alaska discount on Northern California Sharks game in April road trip. That's certainly doable. Definitely check that out, everybody, if you can. I forget offhand what the code is. But yes, we're getting the Alaska Airlines discount code for flights is for Northern California. So definitely check that out. It is a beautiful area. I do love going back there and visiting when I can. Just don't ask me for good food recs. I wouldn't give good food recs anyway. Everybody knows I'm a picky eater. I like only eat pretzels at the beer hall, right? Like, you don't want my food recs. You just don't. Let's see. Marshiro, if anyone on the planet, Dan probably knows what Shane needs for development the most. Trust. I'm with you. That's basically my standpoint on this is like, look, the scratch was very helpful. I think that it's not just Dan. I think the organization kind of has a better handle on Shane and his development than they did year one with him. But I think that scratch was incredibly helpful. All the work that they've done and put in with him, the work that he's put in, and put in with the coaching staff has certainly been paying off here lately. And I'm all for it for sure. Jason asking where in NorCal. It's pretty big. They just said Northern California. So yes, I don't know where. I guess anywhere in the upper half of the state that Alaska flies. I'm assuming Alaska kind of only flies to like San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, Sacramento. I'm trying to think of like the big airports in Northern California. I'm guessing they don't like fly into Weed, right, or something like that. I know there's an airport there, but I don't think Alaska services it. There's also nice food all the time. Okay, yes, Rebecca is definitely the person to ask about ask about things in here for sure. When it comes to Northern California food wrecks and everything, Rebecca is the person. Definitely. Rayanne, super fun to be at tonight. Yes, it was. And then, did I catch you on the fan cam? I thought that was you. Let me know if you're comfortable saying that. But I think you were on the fan cam tonight at one point, and it was if it was you, great to see you again. Kara, good to see our baby goalie get to actually watch the whole game from the bench this time. On a related note, Gru has played the last 2 Firebirds games. Do we see him back up soon? I mean, a little bit at this point, I'm just going to throw my hands up and just say, like, I'm going to stop trying to guess at what the Kraken are going to do when it comes to the goalie situation, the backup goalie situation behind Joey. Yes, it was great to see Coco get to just sit on the bench and enjoy this one and take in the experience and just be a part of an NHL game without having to get into the NHL game and have to deal with the aftermath of a brutal showing in front of him. I he got to be part of the week of practice, got to be part of this game. We'll see if maybe they keep him through the homestand, right? It's just one more game on Tuesday against Minnesota. But I feel like there was enough kind of defensive issues in this one from the Kraken. I know we've been mostly positive up until this point, but there was still some pretty poor defensive moments from the Kraken in this one, really more so than there were good moments from them. And I do wonder, and RJ and I were kind of talking about it up on the press bridge of like, do you take that chance against Minnesota that you're for sure going to be sticking with Joey through that game? Like, I don't know that you can. So I do wonder if maybe Tuesday morning we see the change happen, and we can ask RJ his thoughts as RJ joins us now. RJ, just talking about Guy Coco and the kind of situation around the backup goaltenders for the Kraken and kind of our thoughts. And I was just filling people in on what we were talking about as far as maybe seeing a swap Tuesday morning or something around that, just because can you afford, with the way the defense is playing right now, can you afford having Coco be the one on the bench for that Minnesota game?
Yeah, I think you probably can't, in my mind. I think we're in agreement on this, that it's probably for the best to have a veteran like Alex Steska as the backup just in case the defense kind of hangs the goalie out to dry again and you need to make a goalie change. I just simply don't trust the way this team is playing defensively enough to potentially have Mike Coco out there. And if when he's not too, I mean, it really just says that Joey, no matter how poorly things go, has to go the distance. And I think especially for a goalie that hopefully you're trying to give a rest at some point down the stretch, you want somebody in who can take that spell if necessary.
Definitely. Now, want to hear, of course, what the Kraken had to say after this one. RJ, who'd you talk to? What did they have to say? What did Dan have to say?
Yeah, so we talked with Brandon Montour and Shane Wright. And Monty, said that he liked the effort from the guys, especially, going net front for the tips and things like that. I think he had a question about Eberle kind of having the good sense to get out of the way instead of tipping that puck, and he got a good chuckle out of it. But he liked the response. I think that was the key from Montour, from Wright, and from Coach Dan, is just liking the response after that St. Louis game where nobody was happy with the way the team played. There was obviously that game kind of hanging over all of them, and they liked the way they were able to respond to it and also respond to some of the adversity in this game, particularly the shorthanded goal that they gave up. I know Coach Dan really liked how his team responded to that. Now, one area where Dan was very critical was with Joey Daccord, and particularly that shot at the end there, going for the empty net for the goalie goal. He said Joey needs to work on his shot. He said that was a muffin he shot. And so he talked with Joey after the game, tell him, you got to work on your shot, buddy.
That is good. So you only get good stuff like that after a win, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't get that after a loss, that's for sure.
Yeah. Byron coming through. NorCal Goals is the Alaska code, and it is for travel between May 1st and June 30th. We were trying to figure out what NorCal meant, RJ, what Northern California meant as far as where they go. I'm assuming it's just wherever Alaska flies. Right? Like,
yeah, I would imagine so. Just anywhere in that area, in the Bay Area that they fly, I would think.
Yeah. In terms of tanking, it is a draft lottery, so a bottom 4 finish doesn't necessarily net you a top 4 pick, nor does getting one of the 4 mean they pan out. Just saying, you are correct, Earhead, and I think RJ had actually done the math the other day. Not to put you on the spot, RJ, You don't
If I
remember?
remember correctly, I believe it was, if the Kraken finished fourth to last, so with the fourth best lottery odds, I think that would be roughly a 34% chance at a top four pick. So, basically 1/3 odds, top four, and then 2/3, 5 or 6. So exactly, a top four, bottom four finish doesn't guarantee a top four pick.
No, but it still gives you the best odds of it happening. For those that are on the team tank, Edward Kraken with 2-goal lead when Vancouver pulls a goalie. Clam, remembering the last 2 games against Vancouver went to overtime. Panic. Kraken score, empty net goal. Calm. It's very calm panic. I mean, just the way the team has been game to game, right?
Yeah, I mean it's that inconsistency, right? Just it feels like it's different every game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of panic and different against the Minnesota Wild.
Well, don't say that. Not yet. We're still enjoying this one. Angela Bug, Quinn does have resting despair face. He does. It's a good way of putting it. And by Ren, I don't think any public model has passing or traffic data there. Yeah, that's what I said. So the money puck winometer, like 17% for the Kraken in this one, RJ. I was explaining, I don't think it took into factored in those tips at all.
No, it doesn't, especially for those tip shots and everything too. It doesn't always factor that in properly, and I still think the Canucks probably, if I just did my own winometer, probably would be over 50%, just given the chances they got, but it wouldn't be that lopsided.
Yeah, definitely. Jason, Alaska flies into Reading, true north to get around.
Let's go.
That's wild. I did not know that. That is okay. Now we're talking. Just anywhere along the 5 or the 101 or any of those major freeways, I guess. Fresno was, I think, the farthest south from Byron. Okay, that's actually further south than I thought it would be. Yeah. Let's see, Light, is this where ECH engages in where does NorCal end and SoCal begin discourse? No, I think we could probably avoid that one here.
Yeah, let's steer clear.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about potentially Grubauer coming up. I was going to say, going back to that goaltending conversation, not knowing what the plan is, if they are to call up a goaltender, I don't know at this point that it would be Gru that would be the first choice to be called back.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they probably want to give him some more games to, get acclimated in Coachella Valley and just try and find his game back. And the Kraken, the Firebirds, did just play a 6-5 game where they won against the San Diego Gulls. And Grubauer mixed results in that one. The goals weren't all his fault. There was a Daniel Sprong turnover that was one of the most egregious I've ever seen. That was certainly not all on Gru, but he did have a rough first period. In my estimation, there were a couple that maybe he wanted back. He allowed 3 goals in the first period. So I think there's still probably work to be done there with him.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you thought the goal off the Dunn turnover tonight was rough, got nothing on that Spronger one.
Yeah, no, that's Sprong one. It's on the Discord if you want to go back and look at it, but it is brutal.
Yeah. Becca with the super chat here. Flower has been a real thorn in our side. Think he gets the start here. And then adds in the parentheses there, hopeful. I would love to see Flower again, RJ, on Tuesday, and just get another time to watch him. I don't know exactly how they've been working their rotation or kind of where they're at in it to make that call, though.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think if I recall correctly, they haven't always gone with Flower against the Kraken. They weren't afraid to go Gustafsson. I think they just kind of stick with whatever their rotation is. So I could look into that, but I don't think they're going to look at the matchup game on that one. But I would love to see Flower one more time in this building.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. Even though, as you said, he has been a thorn in the Kraken side. He has made some phenomenal starts against Seattle, RJ.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that Chicago game. I think the Kraken ended up winning it in a shootout. I think it was year 1. But, that was one of the best goalie games I've seen in person.
Yeah, he was definitely a big part of that one. Let's see. A couple ones here. Josh letting us know, phenomenal story and interview with Coach Jessica Campbell on Hockey Night in Canada. So I'll have to go check that out. And then Daniel as well. Watch the game on CBC with Shorthouse and Tomlinson. This was the first broadcast where Tomlinson sounded like he had worked for the Kraken and shared some nice info about the team. So that's nice. That I know lots of people are excited to go visit during the first intermission.
Yeah, there was a massive roadblock in the middle of the press bridge right outside the broadcaster's door for everybody wanting to say hi to Dave Tomlinson coming back here. I mean, we were trying to get to the water cooler area, and we could not get through for a few minutes because of everyone trying to say hello to Dave. So that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah,
didn't mind waiting for that.
No. Byron, for the record, Allison Sport Logic numbers said 2.2 expected goals for, 3.7 expected goals against. So still,
that's about right.
Favoring Vancouver, but not as much. And then, people talking about that sprung turnover in Bryce. That sprung turnover highlight made me physically ill. It's pretty tough watch for sure. What were more of your thoughts on this game, RJ? Particularly the young players being able to get involved. I was gushing about the Riker Evans tippable shot that he had, but I do know, Stridex in here asking, what was your favorite goal?
Ooh, my favorite goal, I think it's the Burkovsky goal. Where Shane Wright draws the defender in and lays a perfect pass with a little bit of sauce on it over to Berkey. I thought that one was a huge one and a big moment in the game. But I also like it because Shane Wright and that line, I thought, had a really good game in this one. I think only 15-50 something ice time for them. So, again, not really giving them the top 6 ice time, but it is what it is at this point. But I like that line played well, and especially Andre Burakovsky. This top 3, certainly for me, I'd have to go back and think about it. Andre Burakovsky games this season. I mean, he was kind of just electric everywhere, especially offensively, creating chances. He probably could have had another 1 or 2 that he was close on, and it just felt like he really fit well on that line. And Shane also had good things to say about Berkey as well in this one too, talking about the way that he is confident shooting the puck when he moves with speed, that he's easy to play with.
Yeah, no, it like I said, being on Shane's wing, it really feels like for the first time in 2.5 seasons that Berkey kind of has a home, and that's been,
right. He actually belongs somewhere. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's been really nice to see that. That goal is fantastic. Great pick from you there. As much as I love the Tolvanen and tip-in goal because of the great job that Riker Evans does to set it up, I'm going to go with the Oliver Bjorkstrand goal that he scores earlier, kind of tipping Brandon Montour's shot to tie the game at 2 early in the second period, because it woke this building up, RJ. I mean, it was a great play for starters, right? Shane digging it out of the corner, sending it cross zone, right? True diagonal cross zone pass out to Brandon Montour, tees it up for a great shot. Oliver Bjorkstrand does a great job of separating himself from the pack to get in front of it and be able to tip it, give himself the time and space to tip it. And like I said, it felt like it really woke everybody back up after Vancouver was able to, tie the game and go ahead in the first period. You go into the intermission, it felt like, okay, here we go again, Kraken defense, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. That goal, you get 4:11 into the second period, and it got everybody right back in the game. And I felt like it was the goal that was most instrumental in the Kraken ultimately winning the game, was just being able to tie the game at that point. Yes, I know Vancouver scores a shorty next, and you're kind of back in that hole. But I feel like that Bjorkstrand goal is the one that breathed the most life back into the club.
I think so. Certainly when you look at the flow of this game, and I'm sure you've talked about it already, but just how into it the crowd was, this atmosphere was as good as it's been all season, which I really wasn't expecting, kind of following that St. Louis game. I was wondering if the crowd maybe, be a little down about the state of the team this season and everything. But, man, they were into it from the opening puck drop, and that was really cool to see. And something that Shane Wright even talked about a little bit, too, and said, it helps us. It's great to see it. It helps us out there on the ice.
Yep. Continuing the trend of tonight's postgame, which is what airports are there in Northern California that Alaska flies to, Jason has given us a great list here of all of them, and that includes Fresno, Monterey, Oakland, Redding, San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, and Santa Rosa. So that's more than I thought. That's good. It's a good list. I would assume all those.
I've pulled out of a few of those. Yeah. Santa Rosa is very small. Just one gate, actually. It's just one gate. There is no real terminal. It's just one gate. But it's nice. It's got a bunch of Snoopy stuff around. Would recommend. Let's see. Fun fact about the Fresno airport. Do you know what the airport code is for that one? Fresno?
It is on here. It's FAT.
Yeah, it's FAT. Yeah, FAT.
Yeah. Sorry, Jason.
They lean into that in the branding too. It's kind of funny.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Jason didn't happen to include all the codes there, so sorry. No, that is fun. Just people talking about that. Byron, of course, knowing this. Fleury has started 7 out of 10 games against the Kraken. The last 2 were an overtime loss and a regulation loss, but that is a significant amount of starts given to Flower when facing this team.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think, his previous teams too, if they look to start him if they can.
Yeah. And then, we've been talking about the Firebirds. Yes, there was the Daniel Sprong goal, but a couple goals from Yanni Newman the other night. And light in here, we don't hype up Yanni Newman enough, by the way. 3rd in the American Hockey League in goals. He is absolutely lighting it up down there, RJ. Dan always talks about the shot that he has, that NHL level shot. It is evident if you watch them, and just really the growth that he has had from the little bit of games that he was able to get last year in Coachella Valley to this season, and how they're making him more and more involved. We got the highlight package that we were able to watch during one of the stoppages in the first period. And I know you were a big fan of some of the player movement that they were featuring Yanni in.
Yes, I loved that. I mean, there was a good play on the power play where he was kind of on the right side wall, and the opposing player was kind of playing real tight to him, I think trying to take away any one-timer option for Yanni Newman on that side, but they worked the puck down low to the left side, kind of behind the net, and they had Newman sneak in over by the bumper spot, and then the bumper moved over to free up some space for Newman. They pass it to Newman coming down low, and he's able to use his shot down low and score the goal. And I love that concept. I love the movement. I'd love to see the Kraken maybe try something like that for a power play that I think, really needs more results. I mean, I haven't cited that stat that I tweeted earlier today, but it's not good. But anyway, stick to the positive. Yes, Johnny Newman's looked fantastic in CB. And a lot of the younger guys had hot starts to the season where they were starting really well from a production standpoint. Newman really, more than anyone else, kind of had that staying power to be there all season long producing.
Yeah, and I do wonder how much of that is because he is the most physically mature of all of those guys. I mean, he's certainly got the size,
certainly is.
Right, compared to a Jagger Firkus who's same age, or a Chalet who's a year behind age-wise. He's got that size. I wonder how much of it is that versus, like I said, being around for the tail end of last regular season and then the playoff run and everything. I really do wonder if that was able to kind of, make him familiar enough with everything, have enough experience at that level to not maybe hit a rookie wall the way it seems like those other guys have.
Yeah, no, I think that's got to be a factor.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those, like, he's playing so well. Do you think that there's the chance that we see a call-up from him for the Kraken late in the year? I think so. And especially the way they've handled it with Coco. Like, if they're willing to give him, and I know it's a different situation with the skater, but if they're willing to call him up and keep him around the team and even put him into a game under a certain circumstance, that tells me I think they'll be a little bit more aggressive with some of these guys later on. It'll all be post-trade deadline, but I would not be surprised to see Newman get a few games in. Yeah, if you had asked me a little
while,
I
know, didn't you say otherwise on the prospect chat?
Yeah, I feel like it's just one of those, like, he can still work on the skating and everything. Like, I don't know how effective he'd look outside of, say, on the power play at the NHL level, just because, I mean, every time I watch the AHL, whether it's on a broadcast or particularly in person is when it's the most stark. The speed difference between the AHL and the NHL is just so significant. And
it is.
With his skating still very much developing, but I would still classify it as below average. I really feel like the longer you can kind of give him, the more you're going to set him up for success at the NHL level, outside of scenarios like the power play where you can really just kind of set him up and let him go for it and give him that built-in time and space that he kind of needs. So I don't know. He's playing well enough to earn the call-up for sure, but I do wonder if he's, if we see it, it might just be like, Logan Morrison's call-up or Winterton's call-up last year, where it's 2 or 3 games just for like the final homestand, something like that, just to more so give them that reward for the playing rather than really trying to integrate them into the team.
Yeah, and you kind of beat me to it. That's kind of what I had in mind, really, was the 2 or 3 games, mostly as a reward. And I have no problem with giving a player a reward. I'm not saying he'll be particularly effective. I don't know that he will be. But that's not what it's about. It's about the reward there, and also just giving him a taste to see, like, hey, look, this is what the speed is here. Just so you know and have a real-life reference for it. This is what the speed is. You go back to CB, but you have that in the back of your mind of this is where you're ultimately going to go.
Yeah, but just given the massive strides he's made in things like his stride and the rest of his skating, I do feel like next year you're talking about him being a very good AHL player who, halfway through the season is able to come up to the NHL and get a significantly longer look, and it's a more serious look, just
Yeah.
because I think he'll, the way he's been progressing has been fantastic to see. I see Jason in here, get him up for some Coach Jess one-on-ones. I think that would be ideal, and I do think that would be part of maybe a call-up late this year. And it's certainly something that when we think about potential changes over the offseason, it's something that I think about is, with this coaching staff and particularly having her be a part of this coaching staff and the difference she's made with players like Maddie Beniers. I think about incoming guys like a Yanni Newman or Berkeley Catton, somebody else that the team is very, kind of focused on his skating development. And I just think if they are going to make coaching changes, I sure hope she stays around, because I feel like what we've seen her do with Maddie, with Shane, the players that she's really worked with, we've seen such significant developments from them. That would happen with those players that also need it, that are going to be coming up soon.
Yeah, I think it'd be really valuable for them to be able to work with her, even in just a limited time this season. Just get some of those tips in while you can, make the most of a call-up.
Definitely. Cameron, speaking of Berkeley Catton, I saw Catton in person a few weeks ago. My goodness, I can't wait for that kid. Electric. He is just, he's just destroying the WHL right now. It is not even close.
Yeah. I think he hit the 100-point mark, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're past that now. I think he's third in the WHL in scoring on a Chiefs team that is just doing fantastic and should, in theory, knock on wood, have a nice postseason run as well.
Yep.
Stratic asking the question, do the Kraken...
Oh, wait, also we got a super chat here from JTB. I don't know if you missed that one. But great win tonight, but with the Kraken still starving for goals and Sprong lighting the lamp in CV, do we see him again at all post-trade deadline? I don't think so. And it's not just the goals and the scoring and all that stuff, but I think, maybe there's the off-ice attitude stuff that we talked about a little bit as well. And the fact that, if you're looking forward to next season, like Daniel Sprong's he's not going to be with the organization next year. You've got guys like Ty Karche still, who we kind of forget about because he was sent down to CV again. You've got Ryan Winterton. You've got Logan Morse. You have prospects, maybe a bit of Newman for a bit, that you're going to call up and give those games instead that are going to be more valuable to you in the long term than Daniel Sprong.
Exactly, right. If you don't have a chance of making the playoffs, there's really kind of no point in trying to maximize for the now. Focusing on that long-term development is a for sure. And again, as much as he scores, you have plays like that turnover, and it's just, I don't know a coach that's going to see a player kind of do that and then want to play them at the NHL level.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that we see a Sprong traded to another team for future considerations before the deadline than we see him play another game for the Kraken this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Stratic asking, do the Kraken need to practice line changes? Now, we didn't have a too many men penalty in this game like we've seen in the past, RJ, but there were a couple shifts, including the one where Jamie Alexiak does have to take that holding penalty, where it did feel like line changes were not necessarily coming at the most opportune time.
Yeah, I think there were a few kind of sloppy or bad changes, really for both teams in this one. I noticed some for the Canucks as well. And it's one of those things that, if they were just coming back from the break, I'd be like, okay, this is just an area where they're not sharp. They haven't played much, in 2 weeks or whatever. It just feels like it just pops up at random times. I don't see a rhyme. They were fine with it for the last 3 games. I didn't notice anything really bad. It just pops up sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. I don't. It's just it's
not high on my triage list for problems to try and fix with this team, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, perfect way of saying it. But it's just one of those things, like with everything, just inconsistent, right? Inconsistency is just it's ever present. It's baffling why it's ever present, but it is just always there.
And actually, sorry, real quick, Dan did get a question. By the way, credit to Darren Brown, Sound of Hockey. Great question to him. Basically asked him about the consistency and lack thereof for this team. They're coming off of a good game and a game where he liked the effort. But he said, why doesn't this team do that more often, right? Why can you not really know when that effort's coming and when it's not? And I admire him for asking the question, because it's something I think, that needs to be asked. And Dan didn't really answer it directly. Said, look, I'm gonna. That's been a problem with us this season. It's been a problem with this team. It's something we got to address. But right now, after a good game, I'm going to pat the guys on the back for the good effort. So that was more or less Dan's answer. I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Can't ask it after a win. Can't ask it after a loss. When are we supposed
I know that's. I figured at least asking it after a win, maybe you'd have a better chance. But again, also just masterclass by Darren, because then it feels like kind of a negative question after a game like this. Immediately follows it up with asking about Joey and the empty net goal, and then Dan's like, "Oh yeah, he's got to work on the shot. It's a muffin out there," and we ended it on some laughs and a high note. So
yeah,
well done.
Good stuff there. Edward, speaking of Sprong, how has Kraken legend Future Considerations been doing with the Canucks? Did not seem to help him out too much tonight.
No, not doing well.
Didn't even notice him out there. Just invisible out there on the ice, RJ. Just no impact, that player, at all.
Yeah. The opposite of Tyler Myers.
Definitely so. All right, we'll do a quick last call here. RJ, looking ahead to the next game, Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota's been having a really good season. They've been playing really strong. A bunch of their top players have been in and out of the lineup all over the place, but they just kind of keep doing their thing. We talked about the goaltending situation. We'll see if we get Flower, and we know what Flower could do against us. But is there something on the Kraken side of things that you're looking forward to or you want to see in that game? Or is it just kind of the easy answer for every game, which is just consistency?
Well, consistency, and of course you want to see the young guys do well, but the specific area I would like to see them do well and be on the good side of consistent, I guess, is being aware of guys in front of their own net, bodying players out, and kind of winning battles in the D zone. Because what I think about with Minnesota is they have skilled guys like Kirill Kaprizov, but they also have guys with the size and skill mix. And I know Joel Eriksson will be out of the lineup. He's one of the normal guys that kind of wreaks havoc. But Matt Boldy, I always think of him. He's one of those Kraken killer type of guys, and they have a lot of big physical forwards. And so being smart about where they are on the ice and battling, really bodying them out, because we've seen the last few games when the Kraken have not played well, other teams' big physical forwards have a way of getting to the inside, getting there for rebounds, and getting tap-ins and things like that. So I want to see the defense be physical, body them out, and keep them out from in front of Joey Daccord.
I would love to see that, especially after tonight, because they did not do a good job of it tonight.
Yep. So that's an area I want to see them improve.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just so much of the season, I feel like really gets mitigated, or the damage gets mitigated this season if the defense is better, right? If
Yep.
the defense is, yeah, and I mean team defense. I don't just necessarily mean the defenseman. I think that was more so a struggle tonight with Vancouver's ability to constantly get established in that front presence. That was more so on the defenseman, but so many times this year, the defensemen have maybe done their job and the forwards helping out in the defensive zone, it just hasn't really been there. But I really do think that has, more so than anything, more so than the inconsistent goal scoring or maybe lacking that, true high-end superstar offensive talent, blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff. Kraken have found a way to score decently this year. It's just that they have not been able to stop giving up grade A chances. And yeah, Joey Daccord has been able to bail you out 20-something times this year to pick up some wins. Should not count on that. Shouldn't have to keep doing that. And we'll see if that continues against Minnesota or not. I think that's going to do it, though, for this Emerald City Hockey Postgame Live. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody for the Super Chats. And, of course, RJ, thank Queen Anne Beer Hall for sponsoring the postgame show. As always, I let everybody know earlier we're going to start communications with them to figure out when we could do some watch parties at one or both of their locations right now, and really looking forward to being able to watch some Kraken hockey with members of the ECH community in person.
Yeah, exactly. Reached out to them today. We're kind of figuring out dates and everything, but we're looking forward to getting stuff planned out. We're aiming for both Queen Anne Beer Hall and Moss Bay Hall. So people on the east side, people down around here can all go to watch parties. I just can't wait to do that with everyone. It's one of my favorite things to do. I know you agree. It's one of your favorites as well. So we'll get that sorted out.
Yep. So keep your ears peeled for that. Is that the saying? That's not the saying. It's a saying, though. And I'll use it for this one. Thanks, everybody, so much for joining us. It was great to celebrate this Kraken win with all of you, and we will see you all next time.